Hello and welcome to our first podcast. I'm Utkarsh. I'm a computer engineer and I'm a business student based in Paris. So, the idea is that we'll pick one topic each episode, we'll research about it, and we'll share our opinions and thoughts. So, for our first episode, we picked one particular thought experiment that, according to us, if it is true, can actually change our whole understanding of the reality. So that thought experiment deals with the question, are we living in a simulation? That whatever you see around you and in the whole universe, is it made up of zeros and ones? Is it just a simulated environment made up by the computer code and you are just a computer code running on a computer machine? So to talk about this experiment, I have with me Sanjay,
Hello.
who is a civil engineer and he's based in US.
Hello, this is Sanjay. Welcome to this podcast.
Welcome. And I also have Vikram with me, who is a computer engineer, and he's also based in US.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast.
So if we want to talk about this simulation in detail, I guess to reach the question of simulation, we need to talk about artificial intelligence. And in artificial intelligence, which we are now seeing that it's everywhere around us. But in artificial intelligence, there are two main theories or questions that we need to tackle. The first is AI takeover. So this term, which deals with an hypothetical scenario where the AI will take over all the dominant form of intelligence on Earth. So in this scenario, the whole human species on the workforce will be replaced by the computers. It is a very damaging and very interesting scenario, which even Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and people like Sam Harris are worried about. And in this scenario, you can imagine that even the manufacturing sector can be taken over by computer integrated machines. And we are seeing what is happening with the autonomous cars like Tesla. So on this topic, we need to talk about what's happening with AI in today's world. So in today's world, because me and Vikram, we are both from computer engineering background. So for us, AI and artificial intelligence's effects are here and they are here for our present and for the future. But particularly interested in Sanchay's background. Like in civil engineering, do you think, Sanchay, that the AI has penetrated your sector? And how much is AI and how much are you dependent on AI?
To be frank, it hasn't penetrated to an extent to what it has penetrated in other industries, especially yours. Yeah, it did penetrate ours. In our case, I would say more than AI, softwares which are on the verge, like they are trying to get AI in between, but softwares have penetrated a lot in our industries. If you talk about in early 90s or even in early 80s, where everything was done on a page and a paper, designs, even drawings and buildings, all everything, most of the stuff was done on page and papers. Now most of the stuff have been taken over by software, so you just need to have a proper software skills, and if you're able to use that software and you have rights knowledge about civil engineering, you will be able, without, like, for example, if I sit down and design a building, for example, it just takes me 10 days to design a building by hand. There's a high possibility that using a software, a very high complicated softwares which are specifically made for our field, we can design that building in a day and a half. But the question here is, do you believe that the results given by those softwares are correct? Like that's something where skills and civil engineering comes into picture. That's what I believe with my limited knowledge up till now and experience. But to an extent, I would say AI hasn't, but it is surely. I've been reading a lot of stuff on this, and I could see people talking about AI penetrating our industry. But in near future, like any other industry, I'm pretty sure we should be prepared for AI penetrating our industry.
So if you compare the older generations who were civil engineers and now, uh, so are there any other tasks which are not possible or possible with AI or without AI?
See, there are many, as a civil engineering industry, there are many tasks. I do believe human intelligence is required, and human intelligence as well as
Right.
their experience is required more than any other industry, I believe. Because as a civil industry, for example, if you talk about the industry like restoration industry, you go on an area, you know there's a building has some faults or there's a crack in a building. You go there and you try to understand, okay, why the crack is, and you need expertise of a human to be there. I don't believe that area cannot be penetrated by an AI to an extent. Maybe in the later stages like design, maybe in future, not in very rare future, but maybe AI can not take over, I would say, but there will be some dependence on AI in future on that. But as an industry in very near future, I don't feel AI, I don't see AI
Okay.
taking over the whole industry as and
So right
also,
now,
Utkarsh, you need to understand that as an industry, ours is the industry which employ major non-skilled workers. So if you talk about taking over by AI, if you talk about in that intelligence in that very near future, then what about the employment of all those skilled and non-skilled workers? So as an industry, yeah, surely, as I said, AI is going to come, and we have to prepare and for that. But
so as far as the workforce is concerned, it's difficult for AI to replace it, as I understood from you. And
yeah,
but it's more on how you read its numbers and then decide on the
correct.
future decisions,
Yeah,
right?
if you talk about like talking about, like, for example, if you talk about numbers, if you talk about precision, if you talk about expertise, yeah, I would feel that yeah, AI has its overhand on that. But obviously human expertise is the key in our
Right.
business. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
So AI can provide you the numbers, but it's essentially it should be a human to decide on what to do with
correct,
those
correct.
numbers.
I do believe
Okay.
that's same for most of the industries, but yeah, yeah.
I definitely agree that human expertise cannot be entirely replaced by AI at some point, but I definitely know for a fact that AI can perform some of the tasks much better than humans can. For example, you were talking about expertise about a certain field where human skills and knowledge or experience is basically required, but AI, I believe it is already dominating when it comes to decision making process, being actually better at making decisions based on the data that is fed to the AI. For example, there are artificial intelligence present already that are able to detect lung cancers, like stage 2 lung cancers, by a margin of 40% more accuracy than the most experienced radiologists. So I would say AI, basically the improvement is much faster when you are actually dealing with AI, and at some point it might even match the human expertise in a certain field. Not, I'm not saying it will do it in all of the scenarios, but I do believe that it can be of great help, and it can do a task in a more accurate manner at some point, better than a human.
So I feel like so for AI, if you only consider processing information, then yes, of course, AI is much better than human, and they can process information thousand times, or if not millions times better than us. But the difference where it comes is the human versus AI is the emotional capability to think. So if there is a scenario where there is two choices and you both of the choices are equally probable, for us humans we take most of those kind of decisions on emotions. But how do you think the AI is reaching, and can AI achieve those kind of consciousness?
So, for us to actually understand how AI development or AI improvement has been going on in the past, let's first start with a simple example where an AI ended up beating a human player in the game of Go. So I'm of course talking about the Google DeepMind's AlphaGo, which was fed the Go games video feed, and the AI basically learned how to play the game from watching the footage, and also from something called as reinforcement learning. So when I'm saying it is learning from reinforcement learning, basically it is learning from its own experiences. So in this case, the AI is actually playing the game, it's studying the outcomes, and it's improving on its ability to make decisions. Now, we would all uh, argue that a computer beating a human being in a particular game is not a very rare thing. We always we There has been time where we all have been defeated by a computer playing chess, but this particular scenario is very different from that, because an AI or a computer that is playing chess might be able to calculate the possible outcomes in a chessboard, but when it comes to the game Go, the amount of possible moves compared to chess are as many as there are atoms in the universe. So it is very, very difficult for artificial intelligence to basically process all the scenarios, all the moves, all the outcomes by a brute force and come up with a scenario to win a game. This particular example, or this particular AI, actually demonstrated that it had some form of human intuition. Now, how they were able to achieve this is by, of course, by reinforcement learning, by using neural networks, which are basically designed to mimic the learning process of a human brain. So let's go for another example here that we all see every day in day-to-day life here. That is the Tesla autopilot. Now, when the Tesla autopilot started, essentially, it would issue a take control command if the car was not able to decide what to do. But within just few days of launch, the car was basically learning from its own drivers, and it was reinforcing good driver behavior and discarding the bad driver behavior. Now, all since all the Teslas are in like a
Okay.
AI network, if one car is learning from its human driver, all the cars are able to drive better and learn how to drive better from
So to
maybe thousands of human drivers that were actually telling and training the cars to drive better than humans. So as a particular human, we might be expert in one kind of field, but collectively we can achieve a greater expertise in a particular scenario or a situation. Now, to answer, can AI actually achieve consciousness? Let's actually look at the Oxford Dictionary definition of conscious. That is the state of being aware and responsiveness to the person's surroundings. Now, to actually answer that will AI ever achieve consciousness, I would like to uh, explain the experiment by Professor Selmer Brinksjord of New York that demonstrated that a fleet of robot, or basically three robots, one of them actually passed the famous Weissman test. So what this test basically is going to do is there are three NAO robots, or now robots as we call them. Uh,
okay.
all three of them are being programmed to believe that two of them have been given a dumbing pill, which prohibits the two from actually speaking. Now, all the three robots are asked the question, which pill did you receive? And they all would start with actually answering, I don't know. But the robot that was not muted actually responded, I don't know. And then it realized that it was actually talking. It processed that it was its own voice. It recognized its own separate entity existence, and it actually corrected its answer to, I'm sorry, I now know the answer to your question. I was able to prove that I was the one not given the dumbing pill. So you would ask that why is this different from a robot vacuum
So you
cleaner?
you are saying that we can treat AI as a baby's brain. So a baby doesn't know morally what is right and what is wrong. It's by reinforcing that decisions what it makes and what parents tell them, then it learns what he has to do for the next time.
Absolutely.
So that's what you are advocating.
Absolutely. So
Okay.
what I'm looking, or what I'm getting from this kind of experiment, is the AI can achieve consciousness in a very subsection kind of scenarios, wherein it is very limited scenarios where the AI might show consciousness. For example, the same robot could never recognize its own hand, or basically could never recognize the feeling of happiness or decision making based on feelings. So it is in a way it is still similar to a child learning to walk, wherein it bumps into objects a few times, it learns from it, it watches the other people around it to actually learn how to walk, and it might be able to achieve that with an amount of reinforcement.
But the big question remains is, will AI be self-aware that at some point that it is much more efficient and smarter than humans and it doesn't need human interaction to enhance or update itself? So that's where the second factor comes in, which is another factor to explain the simulation theory. So it deals with technological singularity. So it means that we reach a point where the AI or technology don't need human civilization's help. So it will reach a point where the technological advancement will be exponential, and the inventions will be per day instead of per decades or per centuries. So this technological singularity, I would like to know, is it possible? And if it is possible, how far are we to reaching that? So for to answer this, yes, the it will rely on when the AI can reach its self-awareness that it doesn't need humans' help. Do you know when can the AI become self-aware of that?
So I would actually argue that this requires a sense of intuition and a sense of sentient. The concept sentient basically explains someone as to having feelings or being able to experience. For example, the way we experience a sunset, as compared to just visually feeding the sunset image to a computer. So in that sense, I don't think the AI would be able to achieve the same amount of emotional maturity, or basically the kind of consciousness we show in day-to-day life, but it would be able to show self-awareness or consciousness on a very narrow case scenarios, where all when a number of these put together can actually be a particular use case. For example, let's say you have a robot receptionist who is able to converse and able to do like basic tasks, but then I really don't think that we are close to the AI actually achieving complete self-awareness or consciousness, because to be honest, even we don't understand many things that are going on with the human brain. Even we don't know why we have the feelings. Even we are not able to explain many things that we experience ourselves. So I think we are quite far from a situation where the AI would actually realize that it doesn't need humans. It's completely possible, again, because these kind of experiments are telling us more about ourselves than we already knew. But then I don't think it is in the very near future, or you know.
So should we strive for it? Like for example, in Sanchay's case, in his sector right now, maybe AI is not as influential as in other sectors. But do you think, Sanchay, that if we improve AI in your sector, and are there any tasks which actually AI can do better? than what you are doing with humans.
Yeah, so they are. It's not that AI is not entered our industry. AI has already entered through like BIM modeling software. It's a very famous software used all across our industry, and that basically has like turned the whole game of our industry, I would say. Like Autodesk in general, AutoCAD, which they basically turn, as I said, drawings by hand to now you can draft it by in computers. The same BIM does that. The BIM has big data style crunching, and you have like all the data collected in a single platform. You have three-dimensional modeling going across by architects, and now you can technically on site. So civil engineering industries have like different, like I would say not problems but different tasks and different challenges. Like you have a drawing and you go on site and you the drawings are in 2D, and now you do understand, okay, there are few things which are on-site conditions are generally different than what you like you draw. A designer just gives the design, but he has very little idea about the on-site conditions, and some, not more than many times, but many of the times you just go on site and you get the real challenge. And then you see, okay, oh, there is a pipe going on, there's a drain going on across here, okay, we didn't count for this in our design. So those things are being taken care by BIM, which itself, it's a big deal right now in the industry, because now you are looking forward like 10 times, like I would say many times, like in future, looking for, okay, what if there's a pipe going across, you could see, and now you can model for that, and now you're saving a lot of money of workmanship and just for very small problems. But in the near future, yeah, I do see AI, as I said before, I do see AI not taking over the industry but entering the industry in the very near future. But it's not that it has not already entered it is entering in some of the other way, as I have already said, and through softwares, uh, through all this data, where you all crunch all the data, platforms of data crunching. So yeah, that's all.
But also, when we talk about AI, we talk in a very conservative and traditional sense, like a robot replacing humans.
Yeah.
But if you see in today's world, we are already a kind of cyborg. So for us, the laptops or the
Correct.
computers,
Yeah.
even mobiles that we use, they are some kind of a arm.
Yeah, I
So
was
we get that.
I was thinking very near future, like most of the stuff, like if you talk just 10 years before, like now you go and buy an insurance online, there is an like artificial, I would say, I don't know, AI just talking to us about taking our problems and can give you data back. And I was like, okay, in the near future, no one really thought that this could take over a person's like job or something, an AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do believe like everyone just thinks before, like, okay, no, that's not gonna come. This will not change. But the technology arrives and no one is ready for it, and it just changes the industry overall. So I believe AI will be like any other revolution, like industrial or anything. AI will be, I consider AI as the next big revolution. Like,
Yeah. Maybe there will be a time where we don't need civil engineering anymore.
I don't think so.
It's a joke. No, I'm an engineer as well.
Infrastructure is the basis of any civilization, so that's not going anywhere.
That I would agree with. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We always used to debate about if we don't have infrastructure, we can still code. But how can you code where would you code if you don't have an infrastructure? So yeah. So, but there is one information to give you an example of how fast technology is moving forward. So in 2017, out of all the startups in different industries,
Yeah.
out of top 11 industries, the top 10 were tech related. So you say fintech, the gaming industry, the education industry, the cleaning industry, the agriculture industry, they all have their own startups with tech related. So this shows that how much even the new generations, they are also coming up with technology related solutions which were not even thought about it even 10 years before. So this shows that the technological singularity, as Vikram said, that it is possible, but it's not in the near future. We might have to wait.
Yeah, if you
But it is that.
even if you take like very small things, talking about my own industry, if you take about, for example, very future, like about real estate agencies right now, I can talk about India. Especially in India, you have websites where you can actually look for homes online. No, so there were real estate jobs or broker jobs which were looking for those, but now everything has turned on an online platform, and now basically you just go on the website, you put the area, you put your stuff, and maybe AI can come into big picture in that, where there will be an AI talking to you in the near future and telling you, okay, real estate, what you're looking for, what's your budget, and okay, and maybe it could just gather some data and it could just tell you, okay, this property looks much better for you. So you could see that in near future. That's what I believe.
Yeah, but somehow I think what we are dealing with is how AI can help us. But if there is a scenario where the AI can feel that they no longer need to help us and can help themselves and start their own
That's like a sci-fi.
different
That's
AIs.
like a sci-fi movie. AI taking over us.
Yeah, it could. What if it comes to
It's
that
turning into
the
Terminator
AI
now.
becomes yeah, minus the killing and minus the catastrophic events that happened in that movie. Very PG and a very
PG-13.
safe
You're talking
scenario.
about PG-13 AI benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we are dealing with these topics, we need to think that if AI can become that advanced, is it possible that AI has actually generated a simulated environment and we are living in it? That is a very disturbing thought, some kind of very exciting thought as well, that that gives us an idea that actually we can reach that level. But to actually think about, are we living in a simulation, we need to actually think that is it possible that we reach a point where the AI, we can develop a supercomputer that can actually develop a simulation. So to talk about it, I need to know, and I think actually we all need to know, that is it possible to develop a simulation environment in today's world?
Is it
I would
possible to
say
develop a
at
simulation
some
environment?
point we already have simulation environments with the virtual reality gaming in place. We have AI penetrating all the aspects of our life today. Wherein even if, let's say, you are playing a virtual reality game today, in today's time we have something like real-time ray tracing, wherein the AI is in the background is basically processing in real time how light is reflected from different surfaces while you're playing the game. And if you compare the same games like 10 years ago, take Minecraft for example. Minecraft is one of the games which saw a huge improvement after real-time ray tracing, because now particular object can have opacity, it can have properties as to how light reflects or behaves when that object is under a light source from a particular location. And if something like that is possible, where the simulated game environment is very much close to what we see things in real life, then it's a possibility that we can one day actually not tell the difference between virtual reality and actual reality.
Yeah, true. But the thing is that the main question is that how can we prove that we are in a simulation? So that's a big question for us.
I
But we
I would
can,
say, like, for example, optical character recognition. That's one of the things which AI is now able to do. Understanding human speech, competing in strategic games, which Vikram was talking about, self-driving cars. So I do believe we are in near future, like, and even our actions, as I was talking about in past, like, you would go and buy an insurance, and there's a person AI talking to you and will not majorly solve your problem but try to solve your problems, give you some of the information through data. You have your phones, you have your laptop, so unconsciously we are already in a simulation. That's why when the first question which you asked me, I said yes, because I do believe we are running in a simulation. Even if you try to, like, many people now would go and stay back and think, okay, has technology taken over us life and things, and but you cannot just avoid technology. You know you have to grow with it, and I do believe that's how we are going into simulation.
And there are some phenomena which are mysterious and difficult to explain, like optical illusion or lucid dreaming, which can help in proving that we could be living in a simulation, right?
Yeah, lucid dream. In case of lucid dreaming, as far as my knowledge is concerned, lucid dreaming is a dream where, like, dreamer is aware that they are dreaming, right? Yeah, that's a phenomena which even scientists are trying to, like, gather more information. It's been going for, like, they have been trying to do research on it for years now, and like you are in the awareness of dream state, and like in lucid dreams you also have the capacity to make decisions. And so it's a very interesting phenomena. If you go and look for in deep, a person body goes into REM almost 5 times in his sleep of 7 to 8 hours. So REM basically stands for rapid eye movements, where your eyelids are just moving very rapidly. And in REM your body is like extremely active, as it could be. Like, for example, if you're awake, you are asleep, but in REM your body is as active as you sleep. So generally lucid dream happens on the 5th stage of that REM, as in the REM starts as soon as you sleep. The first REM cycles goes on for like 10 minutes, and I guess the longest cycle, as far as what I've read, is for an hour. And that's where the lucid dream like kicks in. And it's very interesting. People have got lucid dreams like once or twice in their lifetime. Some like where
Right.
they are in a state of mind and they know what's going on, and they're able to, like, they know they are in dream, and they could actually, like, they are conscious but they are also unconscious. And it's something
I've
which,
also
yeah,
read some of the stories that many of the people who had lucid dream, they can actually had a dream where they can see what their friend is doing and what is he wearing, and they can actually convey that after their dream, and it actually is true. That could be by probability or by chance.
there
but
is a very
there are some.
Yeah, there is a very interesting method called field, which I was reading about, where you can actually induce lucid dream. Like, you can actually create your own lucid dream, and they have their whole process. Like, it's a very interesting process which I was reading about. It's like you set up an alarm. For example, you want to get up at 8 o'clock. You try to reduce your sleep. You set up an alarm at 6, and you say, okay, I'll get up at 6, and the alarm kicks in, and you wake up. But then that's where you just shut down your alarm, you go back to bed, you lie down. Like, there's a whole procedure how you lie down. You take your 2 fingers, maybe it could be your right index fingers, and you go back to sleep, but you're trying to play piano with those 2 fingers, and so your mind is consciously playing piano, but now you're going back to sleep. So you are trying to induce that consciousness and unconsciousness nature, and that's what is lucid dream. So there are different methods scientists are trying to study, and you can actually, as for them, you can actually, like, create a lucid dream.
Yeah,
You can go ahead
and you have optical illusion as well, where
yeah,
imagine how complicated our brain is and how fast processing that our brain does.
correct.
And just a couple of images where the blocks are arranged in a random way or a different way, your brain stops working, or just it's very difficult for brain to determine what is real and what is not. So these kind of happenings and this kind of phenomena can explain that there could be some kind of code glitches in the simulation. Of course, it is a very high-reaching assumption, but
Yeah.
it could be. We can use these phenomena to explain why these kind of things happen.
Yeah, all we are doing right now, like, is it's kind of like getting thoughts open. Like, we are just touching upon topics which, especially in kind of this topic like simulation, and talking about even lucid dreams, we are trying to just touch upon them, thinking like, okay, what if is this true?
Yeah,
Like,
can we
can we do it? Like, yeah, I know there's a lot of research going on. We are not experts on this, but as a normal man, we also go through questions.
But the thing is that
Yeah.
for if we assume that the simulation is true, that we are actually living in a simulation,
Yeah.
there are some important scientific mysteries and topics that actually scientists are thinking about. Like, for example, there is Fermi paradox. So this paradox says that if you actually look in our solar system, you will find out that there is an abundance of carbon in the whole universe. There's an abundance of oxygen, nitrogen, all of the elements that make up life, right? Even then, we have found no evidence of life either in our solar system or either in our galaxy till now. But the paradox is that if these elements are so abundant, why haven't we found anything? Is it possible that we are alone? And why is it that we are alone? That is one of the paradox that can answer this simulation theory, that because we are in a simulated environment, so we are the only one. But then there are also other different theories like multiverse theories. What are we living in a parallel universes? That can also be explained through simulation theory, that there are different simulated environments and we are in just one of those environment. So, and we have those mysteries like what happens when you get inside a black hole. Some believe that black hole is the pipe which links between different universes.
Yeah.
So these kind of things, that then it becomes very easy to say that it is because we are in a simulated environment, that's why these things happen. But till we don't have any proof, it will be difficult to explain it. But the thing is that with simulation, what happens is, how can we prove it that we are? Because we need to find out, are we in a simulation or not? So there was one scientist who said that if we are able to simulate, then it is more than a probability that we are living in a simulation. Because if we can simulate in our short period of time, then that shows that any civilization has the ability to simulate, to write a code which can simulate.
Okay, that's interesting.
So I
Yeah.
believe
And
the experiments that actually are trying to decide if we are trying to basically judge if we are in a simulation are the one of the ways we can actually test for these is we have arbitrary constants that have been the same for the last decade or a few decades, to be honest. And as you mentioned, if there are software glitches, then there definitely is a correction in the software if we are in a simulated environment. And that would mean that a certain elements or a certain arbitrary constants or a certain mysterious things that we are not able to explain properly would change over time. So we will have to look into these and measure the slight changes in these arbitrary constants or these mysterious phenomena happening around us to actually be able to say if we are in a simulated environment or is it just a change that happened over time.
right. But the only fear that I have with simulation is that I don't want this simulation to be like a virtual god, and we create new excuses that because we are coded like this, that's why we are doing this. So that could that could be a scenario that can happen.
Yeah,
But it was
there are interesting series like TV series or which are trying to cover that. Like Black Mirror is one of them. They've made couple of
and
interesting.
as Vikram mentioned, that there were some games that are currently happening, like Minecraft. There is one game called SimCity as well, where you can actually, there is a simulated game where you have characters and you choose what that character should do. So we are somewhere, we are not that far ahead, but we are starting to do this, and this shows that in our human civilization, in our primal traits, we like to look at ourselves as gods. So we like to have some kind of environment where we can watch ourselves. So this shows that even in a scenario, if we are able to simulate, we can actually create an environment just to see how life came to Earth and how humans evolved from living in the caves, finding out, discovering fire, and then discovering different galaxies, inventing iPhones. Sorry, Android people. But so this is a very interesting and deep thought.
Yeah.
But the question I would like to ask is, do you want this to be true? Do you want this simulation theory to be true?
No. Obviously. The first answer would be no. Because it limits human capability in that sense, as you give an example to me saying, us saying like, we are in a simulation and you're like, okay, I don't want any force to tell me that, okay, you are programmed like that and you only have that capability to only achieve like this. So achieve to a limit. For that reason, I would say no. I would not want to be in a simulation.
I would agree with
Okay.
Sanjay on this, because if, let's say, if we consider we are in a simulation, then we have a highly evolved species who is the one that created us, and this creates a chain of simulated environments where who's to say that if we were simulated and we are able to simulate another simulation within a simulation, that will create a chain where we are not able to basically find out who the actual creators are, because even the people who have created us in a simulation might be in somebody else's simulation. So this basically creates a chain of simulated environments where
Simulations.
the next level of simulation is never as evolved as their own creators. So I would say no, I don't want this to be true.
I think I have to take a different approach here. So I think I want this to be true, because if it is true, then that means that the branch that I chose, computer engineering, is actually not going to get wasted, and I can in the future, it makes me excited that I can create my own simulated environment. Maybe I don't want to, I don't know how to prove it, but it will be more exciting for me that in the future I will build one simulated environment and I will have Sanjay and Vikram playing villains in the environment. Don't worry.
Let's just turn Terminators
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, oh yeah, that would be really cool to have a simulated environment where you have Terminator in real, well, it won't be real, but Terminator in a whole environment. How would it feel like? How would it look like?
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
So you are taking the you are hoping the
somebody's
AI
sake.
will say, yeah. So to be safe, I would say that doesn't happen. I'm with Vikram in that.
But think about it, we can actually have our own rules. Like if you guys know that through Einstein, we know that the one thing which is constant is the speed of light. So and nothing can move faster than speed of light, and doesn't matter how fast you are moving, the speed of light remains constant. That is his special theory of relativity. So what it would mean that it's a very typical idea to have a constant value, where this could help us explain that we are in a simulation, that somehow a random speed is a constant, only thing which is constant in the world. So that would show that if we create our own environment, we can have our own physics laws. So but this idea of simulation actually most of the scientists don't like, because that would mean that the laws in physics are not universal. That means that it can change, and this is not a very good idea for physicians or physicists.
Even I would
So,
agree to to scientists in this way, or physicists in this way. I would like, yeah,
Yeah, you are just experimenting with different laws, and then but this is a good experiment to have. If you can create an environment, you can change the laws to just see that is Big Bang possible only on a certain laws, and can you have a stable universe with positive entropy, with having different laws.
that you are saying in so those assumptions you're saying, those are not assumptions, and now those assumptions can be like certain I should say characters, or those assumptions can be certain parameters which could change and which
You
could
can change the
yeah,
parameters, you can change the variables to just see
yeah,
what will be the result of it.
correct. Yeah.
So yeah, these are some really deep thoughts
Looks
that
to be
we
too. It
shared.
looks to be too good to be true. But yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, but these are really deep thoughts that we shared, and I don't know in the near future where we will be able to prove it or disprove it.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for talking about this topic. Thank you, Sanjay and Vikram, for giving your thoughts. And thank you all of you guys for listening. I would like to thank also the AI. If we are in a simulation, thank you, AI, for designing us and this simulated environment. It is a very beautiful environment, but thank you. And if we are not in a simulation, even if we are not, I can see that ourselves designing our own environment. So thank you for sharing your views, and thank you all of you for listening. And last but not least, if you like our discussion, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.